February 11th, 2026, 15.5 Ways of Reflecting Wisely, Part 8, Sound Analysis, Yo Niso Mana Sikara. Today is the last part of 15.5, Part 8, pages 1516 to 1525. 15.5Q, Detailed Analysis as Response to Questions, Part 2. And this is the rest and the end of the chapter. Yesterday we previously read 15.5Q, and we left off at the Buddha went on to describe 6 types of people organized into 3 pairs. In some instances, in different sutras, he describes 10 types of people organized into 5 pairs. Here we're going to pick it up, and we'll have a definition of the Pali terms also. And it's good to understand what the pair is on chapter 15.5, Wise Reflection, Sound Analysis of Yo Niso Mana Sikara. On the bottom of page 1516, picking up at, in similar ways, Gautama Buddha divided householders, those who enjoy sensual pleasures, kama boji, into 10 types. He describes the positive and negative aspects of each of these types. So group 1, those who seek wealth unrighteously. Some people seek wealth unrighteously, and once they acquire wealth, they do not make themselves happy, nor do they share their wealth and do meritorious deeds. They are blameworthy on 3 counts. Some people seek wealth unrighteously. Once they acquire wealth, they make themselves happy, but they do not share wealth, nor do they do meritorious deeds. They are blameworthy on 2 counts and praiseworthy on 1 count. Some people seek wealth unrighteously. Once they acquire wealth, they make themselves happy. They both share their wealth and do meritorious deeds. They are blameworthy on 1 count and praiseworthy on 2 counts. Group number 2, those who seek wealth both righteously and unrighteously. Some people seek wealth both righteously and unrighteously, and once they acquire wealth, they do not seek themselves and make themselves happy, nor do they show wealth and do meritorious deeds. They are blameworthy on 3 counts and praiseworthy on 1 count. Some people seek wealth both righteously and unrighteously. Once they acquire this wealth, they make themselves happy, but they do not share their wealth, nor do they do meritorious deeds. They are blameworthy on 2 counts and praiseworthy on 2 counts. Some people seek wealth both righteously and unrighteously. Once they acquire wealth, they make themselves happy. They do both share their wealth and do meritorious deeds. They are blameworthy on 1 count and praiseworthy on 3 counts. Group number 3, those who seek wealth righteously. Some people seek wealth righteously, but once they acquire this wealth, they do not make themselves happy, nor do they share their wealth and do meritorious deeds. They are blameworthy on 2 counts and praiseworthy on 1 count. Some people seek wealth righteously, and once they acquire this wealth, they make themselves happy. But they do not share their wealth, nor do they do meritorious deeds. They are blameworthy on 1 count and praiseworthy on 2 counts. Some people seek wealth righteously. Once they acquire wealth, they make themselves happy. They both share their wealth and do meritorious deeds, but they are still attached to and caught up in the wealth. They use it without discerning its disadvantages. They do not have the wisdom to free themselves and become masters over their wealth. They are praiseworthy on 3 counts and blameworthy on 1 count. Group 4, those who seek wealth righteously, use it with mindfulness and wisdom, and have liberated their minds. Some people seek wealth righteously. Once they acquire wealth, they make themselves happy, and they both share this wealth and do meritorious deeds. They are not carried away or caught up in this wealth. They They use it by fully understanding its merits and disadvantages. They are freed by wisdom and are masters over their wealth. Such householders are excellent, distinguished, and supreme. They are praiseworthy on all four counts. This kind of analytic reflection, vibhagavata, leads to clear and precise thinking and discrimination, which accords with its commensurate with truth and prevents confusion. A simple example from everyday life is the observation that someone speaks directly, bluntly, outspokenly. It is unable to speak in a sweet-sounding way. It appears as if he covers up his bluntness and abrupt speech in the cloak of frankness. If one analyzes situations more closely, one can conclude that his candidness and directness is virtue. But the abruptness and outspokenness is a fault. Someone endowed with such qualities should acknowledge the deficiency in not speaking agreeably, rather than using directness as a pretext. If one wishes to bring virtue to fulfillment, one should make adjustments in those areas that are still faulty. Similarly, someone who speaks in a pleasing, sweet-sounding way is endowed with such pleasant speech as virtue. But it's another matter whether one speaks candidly. If one does, this is considered another virtue, but if he does not, then it is considered a fault. In such a case, an additional factor which needs to be considered is whether the sweet-speaking person speaks with wholesome intentions, or whether he speaks out of the wish to deceive, using a ruse. One should distinguish the factor with clarity to avoid confusion. In the case that one is looking to hire someone for a job, one chooses the candidate suitable to the job's requirements. Whether one needs someone who speaks pleasantly or someone who speaks directly, if the job requires a person who speaks pleasantly, one selects someone with this quality. Of course, the employer will try also to find someone who is honest. An outspoken person here needs not allude to the directness of the way of this job. Likewise, if the job requires a person to speak directly, it is unimportant whether the candidate speaks pleasantly or not. The person not chosen for this job need not cite his soft-spoken, agreeable speech. Moreover, if one is making a psychological study by looking at the relationship between directness and bluntness, or between sweet-sounding speech and deceit, one should be clear about the factors under investigation. Analytic reflection, vibhagavata, is precise and objective, corresponds with truth, and is aligned with the natural laws. It is thus the model for those who wish to speak in truly open and honest way. Bhikkhus, those who have 5 kinds of forest dwellers. What 5? One who becomes a forest dweller because of ignorance and naivety. 2, those who become a forest dweller because he has lewd desire, because he is driven by desire. 3, one who becomes a forest dweller because he is mad and mentally deranged. 4, one who becomes a forest dweller thinking it is praised by the Buddhas and the Buddha's disciples. And 5th, one who becomes a forest dweller for the sake of fewness of desire, for the sake of contentment, for the sake of eliminating defilements, for the sake of solitude, for the sake of simplicity. One who becomes a forest dweller for the sake of fewness of desires, for the sake of contentment, for the sake of eliminating defilements, for the sake of solitude, for the sake of simplicity, is the foremost, the best, the preeminent, the supreme, the finest of the 5 kinds of forest dwellers. Gautama Buddha puts the question to Darakamika, does your family give gifts, householder? Darakamika replies, my family gives Venerable Sir. And those gifts are given to bhikkhus who are arihats, or on the path to arihatship, those who are at forest dwellers, alms food gatherers, and wearer of rag robes. The Buddha states, since householder, you are a layman. It is difficult for you to know that those are arihats, or on the path to arihatship. If householder, a bhikkhu, a monk who is a forest dweller, is restless, arrogant, fickle, indiscreet in his talk, middle-minded, lacking clear comprehension, unconcentrated, with an agitated mind, unrestrained sense faculties, then in this respect he is blameworthy. But if a bhikkhu, a monk who is a forest dweller, is not restless, arrogant, and fickle, is not garrulous and indiscreet in his talk, but is vigilant, clearly comprehends, is concentrated with one point in mind, but restrains sense faculties, then in this respect he is praiseworthy. If a bhikkhu, a monk who dwells in the outskirts of a village, is restless, arrogant, fickle, indiscreet in his talk, muddle-minded, lacking clear comprehension, unconcentrated, with the agitated mind, with unrestrained sense faculties, then in this respect he is blameworthy. But if a bhikkhu, a monk who dwells on the outskirts of the village, is not restless, arrogant, and fickle, it's not indiscreet in his talk, but is vigilant, clearly comprehends, is concentrated with one pointed mind, but restrains sense faculties, and in the respect he is praiseworthy. If a monk who is an alms food gatherer, who accepts meal invitations, who wears ragged robes, who wears robes given by householders, then in this respect he is praiseworthy. Come now, householder, give gifts to the Sangha. And how does an evil monk wander alone? Here an evil monk lives by himself in the borderlands, approaching families there. He obtains grains. It is in this way that the evil monk wanders alone. One who trains himself in solitude, who sits alone, lies down alone, wanders alone, free from laziness, finds delight in the forest. Brahmins who practice virtuous austerity succumb to craving, bound to rules and observances, practicing severe austerities for 100 years, but their minds are not rightly liberated. Those of low manner do not reach the far shore. There is no self-discipline for one fond of conceit, nor there is a sagehood for the unconcentrated. Through dwelling alone in the forest, heedless, one cannot cross beyond the realm of death. Having abandoned conceit, well concentrated with lofty mind, released in every respect, while dwelling alone in the forest, diligent, one can cross beyond the realm of death. There are bhikkhus named Thera, who lived alone and spoke in praise of the merits of living alone. He went to the village on alms alone, returned to his residence alone, sat in seclusion alone, practiced walking meditation alone. Many monks went to the Buddha to ask about this monk. The Buddha sent Venerable Thera and conducted the following conversation. Is it true, Thera, that you are a lone dweller and speak in praise of dwelling alone? Venerable Thera replies, yes, Venerable Sir. But how, Thera, are you a lone dweller and do not speak in praise of dwelling alone? Venerable Thera replied, here, Venerable Sir, I entered the village for alms alone. I return alone. I sat alone in seclusion, and I practiced walking meditation alone. It is in such a way that I am a lone dweller and speak in praise of dwelling alone. Gautama Buddha replies, that is the way of dwelling alone, elder. I do not deny this. But as how dwelling alone is fulfilled in detail, listen and attend closely. I will speak. Here what lies in the past has been abandoned. What lies in the future has been relinquished. And the delight and attachment for the present forms of individual existence has been thoroughly removed. It is in such a way that dwelling alone is fulfilled in detail. Venerable me ga jala. Venerable sir, it is said that a lone dweller, in what way is a lone dweller? In what way is one dwelling with a companion? Gautama Buddha replies, there are, Mika Jala, forms cognizable by the eye, form cognizable by sound, by the ear, odors cognizable by the nose, tastes cognizable by the tongue, tactile objects cognizable by the body, mental phenomenon cognizable by the mind that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. If a monk seeks delight in them, frets over them, and welcomes them, delight arises. When there is delight, there is infatuation. When there is infatuation, there is bondage. Beyond bound by delight and attachment, a monk is called one dwelling with a companion. Even though a monk who dwells thus resorts to remote forest lodging, where there is few sounds and little noise, desolate, hidden from people, appropriate for privacy and seclusion, but he is still called one dwelling with a companion. For what reason? Because tanha, craving, is his companion. He has not abandoned it. Therefore, he is called one dwelling with a companion. There are, Mika Jala, forms cognizable by the eye, sound cognizable by the ear, odors cognizable by the nose, tastes cognizable by the tongue, tactile objects cognizable by the body, mental phenomenon cognized by the mind that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. If a monk does not seek delight in them, fret over them, and welcome them, delight ceases. When there is no delight, there is no infatuation. When there is no infatuation, there is no bondage, release from delight and attachment. A monk is called a lone dweller. Even though a monk who dwells thus lives in the vicinity of a village, associating with bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, with male and female lay followers, with king and royal ministers, with sectarian teachers and their disciples, he is so called a lone dweller. For what reason? Because he has abandoned the companion of tanha, craving. Therefore, he is called a lone dweller. Monks, wanderers of other sects, prescribe these three kinds of solitude. What three? Solitude with respect to robes, solitude with respect to alms food, solitude with respect to the lodgings. This is what wanderers of other sects prescribe as solitude with respect to the robes. They wear hemp robes, robes of hemp mixed with cloth, shrouded robes, ragged robes, robes made with tree bark, tiger skins with claw attached, robes of kusa grass, woven jute, or sewn together fruit, a blanket made of human hair or of wool, a covering made of owl's wings. This is what wanderers of other sects prescribe as solitude with respect to alms food. They eat fermented vegetables, millet, job tares, rice sweeping, resin, algae, rice bran, rice crusts, gum jumping, or cow dung. They subsist on forward fruits. They feed on fallen fruits. This is what wanderers of other sects prescribes to as solitude with respect to lodging. A forest, the foot of a tree, eternal ground, a woodland thicket, the open air, a haystack, a shaft house. In the Dhamma, the law, and the discipline, the Vinaya, monks, there are three kinds of solitude for a monk. What three? First, a monk is virtuous. He has abandoned immortality and is thus secluded from it. Second, a monk holds right view, samadhi, he has abandoned wrong view and is thus secluded from it. Third, a monk who is one whose taints are destroyed. He has abandoned the taints and thus secluded from them. He is then called a monk who has attained the pinnacle, attained the core, who is pure and established in the core. Note that there's such in church from the Dipitaka, demonstrating the Buddhist point of view in relation to analytical reflection, yo niso manasikara, can sometimes lead people to only see a limited and incomplete picture of Buddhism, and to the misunderstanding for it. For this reason, those people who attempt to describe the Buddhist teachings should cite scriptural passages with care. They should be able to distinguish between those teachings which express universal or general principles, and those which pertain to specific aspect or circumstances, or which have restrictions. They should provide a complete set of example, or explain the relevant circumstances or qualifications, so that the reader or the listener understands Buddhism correctly. That's the end of chapter 15.5, the top page 1525, Buddha Dhamma.